morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking your time to be here to learn how to prepare your paperwork for disasters. On behalf of the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center, we welcome you, and I will introduce Southwest Florida Impact Partners, who collaborates with us here at the Enterprise Center. Southwest Florida Impact Partner, Mr. Ford, will be able to give you a little bit more about what he does in the community, but he is responsible for bringing all of these collaborations together so that we can grow, because we all have the same common goal. We just went through a major hurricane. Last night I thought we were getting ready to go through something else. So this is needed, and I am so thankful for FEMA and SBA for being proactively, especially in our Southwest Florida region. Again, I would like to welcome you here. If you're interested in the incubator program, just reach out to Melanie or I. If you're interested in Southwest Florida Impact Partner and Mr. Ford is not available because he's so busy, we will definitely take a message for him and make sure that connection is made. And without further ado, Mr. Lee Ford.
Okay, now, I follow Jesus. I know what that means sometimes. You know, they brought him in with palms and palm fronds and donkey, and everybody hallelujah and praised him, and then 3 days later they were crucified. So I didn't want y'all to know now, y'all, you know, but thank you anyway. First of all, I want to welcome the ones that's here for coming. I know we should have some more coming. They called me already today saying they were coming, so it'll be good. But I want to welcome FEMA and SBA for being here today. It's very important that for those few of you that are here now, ask Angel, because the meeting is officially started. I'm slacking off a little bit on you, but these people should not leave this room without them meeting you, shaking your hand, you giving them your business card, you getting their business card, because the connection with them is very important to you as a business owner. They are a resource for you. The only reason they're here is to make sure that you get the information you need to connect with them to get the resources from you. They're not successful if they ain't getting no money in the street. Y'all get evaluated once a year, once every 5 years, y'all go there. So I don't know how y'all do it, but their success is measured on what they are able to engage in the community with businesses. And you're those people. Don't leave here without it. I'm leaving, that's why I'm getting all this out now, because usually I come in, do what I have to be at the airport. I got, most of you know my business at the airport. I got supposed to be there by noon. Yeah, right. So, don't leave without connecting with them. And this guy's been in the front acting like you don't know nothing and looking in this iPad right here. Don't let that fool you. Get into it, okay? I want you to make sure you do that. Thank you very much, and welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's on you. Yes, take it away.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Tyrell Shields. I am with the Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. And so welcome. We're going to do a couple of things today. I'm going to do a presentation on how to be paperwork prepared. This presentation actually comes from one of our research partners, the SBDC here in Southwest Florida. And they couldn't be here with us today, but they gave us permission to do it. And so this is one of our tangential colleagues' presentation. Her name is Elizabeth. And you'll see our contact information at the end of this presentation. But before I do that, I want to bring up another one of our resource partners in collaboration, and that is Mr. John Ritchie with FEMA Mitigation. And he's going to just come and talk about the mitigation process, some things you should have in place with that. And then I'll come back, and then once I'm done, my colleague Jeff Powell will come, and we'll also do a presentation very SBA specific about documentation. So I'm going to do a conversation about business continuity, and then Jeff is going to piggyback about some specific documents for the SBA process. Mr. John Ritchie is going to come now and talk to us about mitigation. So John, it's on you.
Thank you, T, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks to SBA for graciously inviting us to their events. I've just got some general advice and information to share with you about getting prepared for the next one. 3 words you need to consider. Are you ready? That's the concern. As a matter of fact, that's so important that FEMA has a 36-page publication dedicated just to that. You can get it online, you can download a free copy, you can have a copy mailed to you if you go to ready.gov. All right, so 3 key points to consider. You need to know your risks, you need to make a plan, and you need to be able to take action. It can be as simple as just having an emergency plan, a family plan, where you're gonna meet, what you're gonna bring, how to communicate, making sure you have food, supplies, first aid, batteries, water, generator, battery operated radio. Do you plan to shelter in place? Do you plan to evacuate? Where will you go? When do you plan to leave? Do you have a full tank of gas? Do you have a pet? Can you take the pet where you're going? Do you need prescription medications? Any family members that might have mobility issues? These are things you need to think about well in advance of an event. Many disasters happen with little or no warning, hence the terminology flash flood. Another thing is if your local community issues an evacuation order, there's a really good reason behind that. If you choose not to, when the community decides it's not safe to be there, you pose a danger to yourself and emergency service personnel. If in the midst of a terrible event, you need to call 911, providing there's electricity and phone lines, most of the emergency services, people can't get to you until the storm passes or it's safe to do so. So think about that. We have, on every disaster, we have people that choose not to, and unfortunately, suffer the consequences of that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the word mitigation. You hear that a lot. What is that? What do I have to do about that? Well, mitigation is an action. It's any action that you take to prevent the loss of life or the damage to property now or in the future. Just having a plan for your family, that's a mitigative action. That's something to put together in advance. Having insurance is a mitigative action, both on your property and especially flood insurance. Why? Because your regular property insurance will not cover damage to your property due to a flood. We live in an underinsured nation. There are just under 5 million national flood insurance policies in the nation. 2.9 million of those are here in Florida. Why? Well, we're almost an island. People say all the time, I don't need flood insurance because I don't live in a flood zone. Well, I'm here to tell you, everyone lives in a flood zone, period. It's just low, medium, or high risk. Case in point, 52% of the flood claims that were filed in Hurricane Harvey in August of 2017 were in the lowest flood zone on the flood map. Some people had 10 feet of water in their home. With no flood insurance, that's a difficult situation to be in, to be able to recover. The average grant from individual assistance is somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000. It's really hard to put your home back together with that. Mortgage companies will tell you if flood insurance is required. There's a big difference between requirement and need. If you live in a medium to high risk area and have a federally backed mortgage, you will be required to purchase and maintain flood insurance. Besides that, it's a really good idea. And that's what most fail to realize. You want to be protected from not only your physical losses, but your financial losses. And there's no better way to do that than having the right kind of insurance. Another thing about flood insurance is it doesn't take a presidential disaster declaration for you to use that. It's active 365 days a year. Unlike most of the other government programs, which do require a declaration for you to take advantage of that. One of the greatest resources that we offer is through the Small Business Administration. Low interest loans to put your property back together, but they have to be repaid. So everyone's heard the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. When your property gets damaged from a disaster, there are some situations where local compliance laws will dictate how you can put that property back together. But in general, if you put it back exactly the way it was, guess what happens the next time the storm comes to town? Or one more severe than the one that we just went through. Incorporating some mitigation efforts into your rebuilding efforts is a smart thing to do. Not having any damage or not going through the trauma the next time is clearly a better path. Mitigation ranges from simple things that you can do, like install flood vents in your home. You can elevate your machinery and your equipment, your water heater, your air conditioning, your breaker box, things of that nature. To major things like elevating your entire structure. You can use more resilient, waterproof materials during your rebuilding. Decks, staircases, porches that are made out of wood can be replaced with composite materials that are fabulous and impervious to water. Just something to think about. The higher you are, the safer you are. Elevating your structure above the anticipated flood levels will lower your flood insurance premium. The higher you are, the safer you are, and the lower your premiums will be. Insurance is based on risk. The lower the risk, the lower the premium. FEMA has a huge online resource under the Building Science Group for various mitigation activities. Plans, designs, materials, case studies, suggestions for building and rebuilding stronger and safer. Please take advantage of that. The study of human psychology states that in order to get someone to change their actions, you have to get them to change the way they think. I hope that today I've given you some things to think about. Because when you know better, you do better. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And yeah, so John just gave some really good information that's both applicable for homes and for businesses. One of the things that he mentioned, and I recently just saw the commercial for it, I thought, oh, this is cool, is Ready.gov. So if you haven't been to that site, I'll say it again, go check it out. It gives you some options for preparing just disaster plans. If you have older family members, if you have any kinds of other disaster prep that you want to do. It's a really cool site, and it's a site that FEMA put up for disaster preparedness. So definitely take a look at it. let's jump into this. I'm going to forewarn you now. I'm going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to try to be short. Two, I'm going to be as interactive as possible. And three, that means I'm going to put you to work. So I see that you guys are writing, which is great, because I'm going to give you stuff to write, and then we're going to talk about it as we go. Okay? Okay, you got to talk back to me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right. I just put you in church for a minute. I understand, but yeah, no, you're gonna talk back to me today. Okay, so how to be paperwork prepared, business management essentials, and best practices. So let's talk about business continuity. So what is a business continuity plan? A business continuity plan is basically what John just talked about: a system of prevention and recovery from potential threats to a company, to a home. But we're going to specifically focus in on businesses, right? So a business continuity plan wants to be unique. It needs to be unique to your particular business. Now, it can be super complex or it can be super simple. The goal is to plan, right? Because failure to plan is planning to fail, right? So the goal is have a plan in place, have something in place. It doesn't have to be this elaborate thing, but it can be. It can be very elaborate and very detailed. And so we'll work through that today. Only about 30% of U.S. businesses have a business continuity plan. Roughly 40 to 60% of small businesses never reopen after a disaster. So you guys are here in Southwest Florida. I know that Fort Myers Beach last year was hit really, really bad. And you can ride down the beach right now and see how many businesses have not reopened yet. And it's been a year. And typically after disaster, 40 to 60% of businesses are not going to reopen. And so having a plan in place helps you to think through and prepare what if something happens. And the something can be anything. So it can be a hurricane, it can be a flood, it can be a fire, it can be in the case of, Ybor City, is that how you say it? Ybor City, Ybor City up in Tampa? Oh, okay, there we go. See, Ybor City in Tampa, a really, really good example, right? Because it is known to be a place of clubs and lounges and bars and be really, really populated. And the last couple of weeks, it has been a ghost town. Why? Because of that mass shooting. I think at least like 17 people got hurt and that kind of thing. And I saw something recently on social media, and I thought this is true, but people don't think like this, right? Somebody said, well, you would think that it'll be full down here now because it's the safest it's ever been, because as you walk up and down the street, all you see is police presence. But there have been bars and restaurants that haven't been open for days and going on weeks now because it's a ghost town and nobody's coming. Did somebody plan about that? Think, okay, well, what happens if we have a shooting? Mass shooting, somebody gets into a bar fight and pulls out a gun and the gun goes off and people get shot, right? Things that we have to think about and prepare. So that's just an example of another reason, disaster, if you will, right? Just being prepared, having a business continuity plan. 90% of businesses that don't reopen within 5 days after a disaster ultimately fail. So you gotta think, as you're writing out this plan and thinking through it, what are the things that I can put in place and implement so that if something happens, realistically, I'm working on about a good 5-day time crunch, right? I got 5 days to get my business up and rolling if I'm gonna have an impact, if I'm gonna be able to recover and be resilient. And that's not to say that your business won't and can't reopen after 5 days, but the statistics say you got 5 days. And if you don't do it within those 5 days, the likelihood minimizes. So why do I need a business continuity plan? Protect your investment, protect your employees, protect your family. A business continuity plan will help your business become better and help you to act and recover more quickly. So again, I say it's just all about planning, right? So creating a business continuity plan, we're going to work through this. We have more slides of this, but this is where I'm going to start putting you to work, right? So identify threats. The first, there are 5 steps to this, creating a business continuity plan. 1, identifying threats. 2, analyze the impact of those threats to your business. 3, create a strategy to address those impacts. 4, perform a drill or rehearsal to test that out. And then 5, work with a small business development consultant to help you develop a business continuity plan. And like I said, at the end of this, we're going to see Elizabeth's contact information, and you can schedule a consultation with her. She's great, she's bubbly, she's wonderful, and you will like her. So let's do this. What kind of business do you have?
Pest control company.
Pest control.
Tax consultant.
Tax consultant.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
career coaching.
Career coaching. And I know do you have a business on the side? All right, so let's say I have a business on the side, I have a graphic design business, right? Business on the side?
No.
Business on the side? Really, you don't count that as a business? I would. Business on the side? Yes. Real estate. Real estate, see? Real estate. All right, so, business, right? So let's talk about business and what we do. So, what I want you to do is write down your business just in the corner somewhere, first thing. And I want you to think that we're gonna get ready to talk about identifying threats. But before I show you the slide, I want you to think about 3 potential threats that you can come up with that could threaten your business. And I'm gonna give you 3 specific areas of threat in just a moment. But before I give you those 3 areas, I want you to identify 3 threats on your own. And then we'll look at the 3 threats and see if they kind of match. Business.
Websites and video and photography.
Websites, video, and photography. Thank you, sir. John, do you have a business?
Real estate.
Real estate. There we go. Real estate. You know I need to get into some real estate. One thing I'm not making any more of is land.
Just make it more expensive.
Yes, just making it more expensive. Absolutely. All right, so you got your 3 things. Have you identified those? I don't want to push you, but I do want to.
Can you repeat that question again?
Just identify 3 threats to your business. So you have a tax business, right? What are 3 things that could pose a problem for your tax business? 3 things that could happen disaster related. So, in a disaster, like I said, it can be anything. It can be anything. So fire, flood, shooting, hurricane, COVID, anything. All right. So while you're doing that, we're going to go to our next slide, which is identifying threats. So let's talk about the 3 threats that we have up here. So catastrophic threats, disruptive threats, and strategic threats. So catastrophic, natural disasters, fire, death of owner, environmental disasters. Who has heard of, and I've learned this through my colleague Jeff over the last couple of months. I think it's really cool. I've met an insurance consultant and talked about that as well. Who knows anything about a key man policy? Nobody.
I take that back. Yeah, I've heard about it here.
Okay, what is it?
It's like, if one of the owners or something like that died in the company, it'll pay off their portion of what they own in the company or something like that.
You've got, there's a piece of that. It'll help to pay and sustain the company and keep the company going. You can have it transferred into somebody else's name and then they can become, it's a whole bunch of stuff, but the goal of it is to help the business go in the event of a disaster. Somebody dies, something happens to them, et cetera, that kind of thing. Something worth looking into for your business, right?
What is that called again?
A key man policy.
Key man?
So it's an insurance policy, it's a type of insurance policy. And I suggest anybody who desires for their business to go longer than them, right? So some people start a business because it's a hobby, some people start a business because they want to start a business, but some people start a nonprofit because they want to affect the community and want to see it live, whether they are here around, move out of the state, out of the country, something happens to them, they pass away, I want my business to keep going. Something like this is great for something to look into. So death of owner, environmental disasters, etc. Disruptive threats, lost or stolen information, loss of key employees, damaged or critical infrastructure. So, one of the things that people don't necessarily think about is, as business owners, a lot of times, if we do have employees or people that we're working on or working with, especially as small businesses, right, we sometimes rely heavily on other people, right? But what if you and that person fall out? Or what if something happens to them? Or what if, for whatever reason, you need to part ways, right? Can your business still thrive? There is a social media song that came out, and I only mention this because I just heard it recently, and it's very comical, but I would have to tell you about my personal life to tell you why it was so comical, but I'll mention the song and maybe it'll make sense to you. There's a song that comes out, there's a song that, just know it has nothing to do with me, it has to do with people who are close to me, but it's funny that the song keeps being a reference. There's a song that comes out, it's a guy, and I think he's got on cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and he's talking about how one monkey don't stop no show. You know what song I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, it's a reference. But you've heard the phrase, right, about how one monkey doesn't stop a show. Well, the truth of the matter is, for some of us in our businesses, one monkey could stop our show. Do you have a plan in place to keep that from happening? Right? And so then strategic threats, so economic disaster, legislation, changing consumer preferences and tastes. You know, what happens if all of a sudden the IRS decides they want to completely overhaul and change tax laws? How would that affect your business, right? What happens if they change just how nonprofits do business, or have to not or do pay taxes, right? Just a variation of things that we have to think about. Great. So I had you write down 3 things that could be a threat for your business. Everybody just give me one, please. What you got?
I say internet.
Okay, so internet, why would internet affect your business? How?
Because my services are, majority of my services can be done remote, so, I don't know if it's true, but I keep seeing on different news cycles about how some storm is supposed to be coming and the internet can be out for a few hours or a day or something like that.
You said you do coaching, right? Okay, so quick talk on our feet. We're building a business continuity plan for you. Internet just goes out. This is also going to affect your business real bad. Internet goes out. Internet goes out. It's going to affect mine too. Internet goes out. I have to think about how I can bounce back from it, but I immediately see how you can. How can you switch up what you do? What's something that you can put in place as a plan if the internet goes out, but you're doing coaching services?
They would just have to be done just virtual, I mean not virtual, but face to face.
Absolutely, right? But it's important to write that kind of stuff down, because in the crunch, we're not even thinking about that, right? Oh my God, what am I gonna do? The internet goes down, and half of my clients are in California. So does that mean I need to get on? Like, do I, in my mind, if the majority of the money that I'm making is in LA, but I live in Fort Myers, do I have a plan in place that says, okay, I may have to do a switch right now and do some stuff in person, so maybe I need to hop on a plane for a little while, and I have a little nest egg saved up, because where all my money is at is in LA.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to physically be in LA for a little while, right? Just thought, okay, what you got? One thing.
For instance, like due to COVID, a few years ago, like my individual donors, they were unable to work, so they couldn't fund my business organization. You know, donate, basically. So that would be a big
So what would be a fix to that?
having some funds reserved
Okay. Okay. Having some funds reserved. Absolutely.
to continue on with my events.
Get you somebody that's got a really lot of money and just
Yeah.
get you a good endowment.
Yeah.
You know, just don't worry about What you got?
I put, if something happened and it was a war or something, and gas was no gas, so gas is $10 a gallon.
Okay. What's the fix?
I guess, stockpile gas or have electric vehicles reserved, I guess, something like that.
Both of those things. And or, you know, maybe diesel fuel, right? Diesel fuel. Diesel fuel, I had somebody recently tell me that they had a car and they fueled their car with corn oil. So that's some of the cleanest emissions ever, and just got around and literally could go to the store, buy corn oil, put it in the car, and keep it pushing. What you got, sir?
I put mass layoff or a disaster,
Okay.
because if I'm working a particular industry and for whatever reason folks are there, it will affect me, but I would have to counteract also to understand what's happening to the taxpayers now and how can I benefit them now, you know, from the base, because of the base of the loss. For instance, if you say you were one of my customers with business and you got 10 clients, you have 10 employees. How do you take care of yourself and how do you take care of your employee and keep your employees so they don't wander? So I would have to look and see now, how does the law help you?
How does law help me? And possibly you get paid either from my taxes or I pay you separately, right?
Exactly.
So then that's gonna affect your bottom line if I ain't got no money to either pay you and or I'm trying to keep as much of my taxes as possible. So I'm looking like, can I try to do this by myself? Because me giving you $1,000 off my taxes versus me trying to do it myself and keep it, absolutely. Okay. Anybody else got anything they want to share before we move on?
So my big thing would be if I lost all my equipment,
Okay.
I'm gonna function, but just making me think about it, I have to buy some things that'll do not as good as what I have, but I have to find the closest thing open and get something.
Okay, yeah, so just having some backup equipment, some stuff on reserve to say, okay, maybe I have some stuff I keep in the warehouse and I just test it every 3 months to make sure that it's good, keep a battery charged somewhere, that kind of stuff like that, in the event of I can still operate. Okay, absolutely. All right, so we already did this. So identify threats, questions to ask, what are the key characteristics and assets of my business? What makes my business successful? Is there anything that can disrupt the success or take away my assets, right? So we just kind of did some of that just in a workshop type of way. But these are some of the questions that you want to ask. So analyze the impact, step 2. So how would the threats that you identified affect your business? We've also kind of talked about that a little bit, what we just did, right? So financial impact, lack of revenue equals inability to pay bills. Operational impact, lack of key employees, inability to do business. Physical impact, lack of infrastructure, inability to operate out of normal facilities. Security impact, stolen information, lack of trust from customers, right? So begin to analyze once you identify these threats. Now, how are these threats actually impact my, like we just did in our conversation, right? So, ain't got no gas, can't get around, can't do, right? I have no donors, can't fund no things because I can't do that. And/or, how might I have to pivot? So, okay, I have no donors, maybe I really gotta step on my ante and work on my large corporation donation letter and see what Target and Walmart and everybody else is talking about, and Kroger and Publix, and see if they wanna, okay, I can't buy food, but can you give me 4 platters of subs for this event today? Kind of a thing. We good? We okay? We good? All right, so.
Actually, I just wanted to pass some cards. I got an appointment. I got to
Okay.
So sorry to disrupt. You guys go.
Thank you, sir.
You go.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Sorry about that, y'all.
So still analyze the impact, questions to ask. What could be the financial impact? What could be the infrastructure impact? What could be the operational impact? What could be the security impact? So 3, create a strategy. Is a disaster response plan documented? So I started at the beginning, I'll say it again. Document what you need to have it down, right? Like write down an actual plan. So let's talk about a good outline of what it should cover. So how will everything be managed? What resources are needed when there's an aftermath? How is information going to be disseminated? How are media relations and community relations handled? A medical response is needed, drills that are done to kind of test out. So remember being in school and once every 3 months you would have a fire drill? And or in some areas, this is really, really scary, but they do it. In some areas they have active shooter drills, right? Like testing out these kind of plans. What was it, last month, 2 months ago, we were sitting in a room somewhere and everybody's phone went off across the country?
We were sitting in.
Everybody's across the country, and it was a national emergency test. And it was funny because it's like you thought it was done and then there would be another wave of beeps and then another wave of beeps, kind of like this delay. But again, testing it out, like putting a plan in place and then testing it out, making sure that the plan that you have in place works. And so, the other thing that I'll say too is not just putting a plan in place, but having a plan where you can access it, right? So having that plan, either having a physical copy, having a copy in the cloud, having a copy in your phone, having a copy in a couple of different places, so that, and this is not just the plan, this is also like your important business documents, your important life documents, right? Having them in a variety of different places where you know that you can access them. So one of the biggest things that I've seen just being out in the field working, both businesses, but more so homeowners, renters, stuff like that, if there's a flood, very specifically a hurricane or flood, nobody can find driver's license, nobody can find birth certificates, nobody can find social security cards, nobody can find any of these things. Well, at a bare minimum, take a picture, put it in your phone. Not just put it in your phone, upload it and send it to yourself in an email. At some juncture, I don't have a phone, I don't have a computer, I don't have my license, I don't have anything, but somebody somewhere does, and maybe I can just go out and print out a copy currently so that I have a starting point, right? So that I have a resource, that kind of a thing. So create a strategy. Do you have, for instance, inventory of hazardous substances within your facility? So let's say you have a facility, so let's say, okay, cool, I want to stockpile, part of my plan is to have a whole bunch of gas, right? We just talked about that. But having a whole bunch of gas getting in water, if there's a flood, can cause a problem. Gas, when it's stale, it can cause a problem. God forbid there's a fire somewhere, it can cause a problem, right? And so just taking an assessment, batteries, right, can cause a problem, they can explode, right? Kind of knowing what you have, and taking an inventory and updating your records regularly so that in the event that something happens, you know what's where, your team knows what's where, and you know how to handle what it is. So talking about teams, is your staff properly trained, right? Are you working with people and do they know how to handle what's going on? Does each person know their role with clarity? So having training drills, hey, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is how we're going to respond, this is what the plan is, this is how we're going to interact. So speaking of responding, right, communication plan. So you have a nonprofit and something goes on in the nonprofit, who's talking to the media if the media shows up, right? Who's talking and giving out information? Who knows what they can say, what they can't say? Like, hi, my name is, and I'm here, and I'm gonna refer you to them over there because they can answer all of your questions. I can smile, but I can't talk, right? Pretty face, right? Like, that's not my job. And so I'm not gonna try to explain it because I'm not gonna bumble through it. I'm not gonna say the wrong thing and cause more of a PR crisis. No, Jeff's gonna handle that. This is Jeff Powell, my colleague, and he's gonna talk to you about such and such and such and such. Like, do we have clarity with that? Because if we don't, in a crunch, people just start going and start thinking and start doing a lot sometimes, right? And it's inadvertently a lot, and it's accidentally a lot that sometimes can either save the day or cause more of a problem. So, how will the work be documented during the recovery process? So after a disaster, you're going to be asked multiple times for multiple documents, right? So a detailed list of all assets, records, in a protected system is ideal. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Documents, document the current state of a building, equipment before a disaster hits as quickly. So, like stuff we don't think about, like walk around, take pictures of your facility and that kind of thing. This is what it looks like today. Okay. This is what this room looks like today. We're gonna take a picture today, because I just want to walk in here and see what it looks like today. God forbid, Phyllis said last night, she thought something else was gonna hit last night. Okay, God forbid something happened last night. This room may not look like it looked today. But if we don't have documentation of what it looked like, and someone's like, well, how, and you're just, I don't know. And sometimes we get frazzled, right? And so if I'm frazzled in the moment, and I see you, I got you. If I'm frazzled in the moment, and I'm trying to do whatever, and I don't have documentation, if I have a picture, I can stop talking and be like, you know what, I don't know, here you go. This is what it looked like yesterday. Or this is what it looked like a month ago. This is what it looked like a year ago. Yes, Amy?
Piggybacking on what you just said, one of the other things that you may want to do is get the serial numbers for all of your equipment. Because even though you may have a picture, when you file a claim with the insurance company, they're gonna be like, well, how much is that? Or how much would it be if, you're not gonna get 100% of what you paid for it. So if you were to sell it, how much would it be? So if you don't have a serial number, they can't look it up, they can't verify it, and you're going to take a huge loss on the items that you want to replace.
So again, thank you, Amy, for that. So again, I say, a business continuity plan can be as robust or as minimal as you want it to be, but I would always suggest the more the detail, the better, right, to this point. Who's thinking about serial numbers? But to that point, even if there's not a disaster, if you walk into your house and your TV goes on the fritz and the TV company has given you a 3-year warranty, do you still have your receipt somewhere? A picture. I'll take a picture, but I'll put a receipt away, right? Do you know where the serial number is on the back of your TV? Because they're gonna ask you. They're gonna ask you for that. And they're willing to send you a whole new TV or send a tech to the house to get it fixed for you. But if you can't get them that, they can't do nothing for you. And now you're frustrated. Well, I paid for it, and I did such and such, but I don't have the information that you're asking for. Again, planning ahead. Planning ahead. So do we have backups for essential personnel, right? So even if you don't bring somebody else on a team right now, do you have somebody in mind? Have you had a conversation in mind about a plan in place? Kind of like what godparents used to be, or people put, in their will, like, hey, if something ever happened to me, my kids come and live with you. Some of y'all would not send your kids to their godparents. No, they're your godparents, but you're not going to live with them. You're going to go to your auntie's house. You can't go live with your godmother. I don't know what I was thinking 10 years ago when I did that. Right? No, I'm joking. Right? So, but do you have somebody in mind and in place who can step up to the plate in case something happens to somebody who's essential personnel for you? Are they trained? Do they know what the position is? Can they just kind of jump in and go? Right? Because sometimes that causes for an issue too, because what happens when something happens to somebody and now you're trying to take on everything and this stuff is dropping to the floor because you're overwhelmed. So financial impact, thinking about that, you stop making money, but you still need to meet fixed operation costs, business restart costs. You need to find a temporary funding source to get business operational again as soon as possible, right? So insurance, business interruption insurance, key person insurance, I already talked about that, cyber insurance, general liability insurance, just kind of looking at insurances. I know that insurances always kind of seem expensive, and it's also like, hey, what do I need this for? Well, you don't need it until you do, right? It's kind of one of those necessary evil things that's like, okay, you know, like car insurance. I don't need car insurance until I need car insurance. And it's like, so you get full coverage or you get liability? Well, if you paid off your car and you like the value of your car, you might want to hold on to that full coverage, although it's cheaper to have the liability. Because the liability is going to pay somebody else, but that full coverage is going to get you the value of your car. If it gets totaled out, you can't drive it, right? So, create a strategy. So, what resources are available to help me recover from disaster impacts of my business? What are some of the practical and realistic ways to profit from the effects of a disaster? How can I incorporate my employees into my business continuity plan? After creating a business continuity plan, collect all the important documents, share with relevant stakeholders, put the plan on the cloud, have it on a USB drive or any other drive that you can back up those kind of documents. Collect your important documents. In addition to having a business continuity plan, you should have a binder and an online folder that contains important business information. So 2 years of business tax returns, 2 years of personal tax returns, employee documents, business license, permits, inspections. So all the stuff that we talked about, right, here's just a good list. I will make sure that you all, we have a sign-in sheet, right? Does that sign-in sheet have emails on it? Okay, great. I'll make sure that you all have this presentation. So we'll email it out. But you know, so this list of documents, right? That way, again, if something happens, bam, I can just go to the cloud. I can go to the hard drive. I can go to my phone, and I can pull up what I need to kind of make it happen. It also just helps you if there's not an emergency that happens. You just happen to be in the store and you need your nonprofit certificate. You can just go to your folder and be like, here you go. Do you need me to print this for you? Because it's right here. I have it. Instead of, no, I thought I had a copy, and I have no idea where it's at. We're talking about putting it in the cloud and share your plan. So make sure you share your plan with the following people: your employees, incorporate feedback, your insurance agent verifies that it meets your insurance needs, your banker, are there any other short-term financial options available that you didn't think of, and other relevant stakeholders. So once you create a plan, have a conversation with some key relevant people, right, that can impact your organization, and make sure that it's thorough, it's efficient, and that you've thought through all the things that you needed to think. So after a crisis, a strategy to reopening, how would things be different? Were you prepared and what can you do differently? Capitalize on new ways, adjust products or services, change your business model, target a new audience, and or maybe you gotta start a new business, right? So what's here, I'll say it like this: have a plan to pivot, right? Don't be so stuck in your ways that you can't pivot, right? Pivoting is one of the greatest things in the world. Because it's like, okay, well, I can still be going forward. I just may need to shift direction or jump over this way or kind of move over a little bit. So have a plan to pivot. That's what all of this is saying. Questions, comments, thoughts, funny jokes. And it looks like you got one brewing. No? Okay. Thank you. All right, so there are a couple of things I want to share that SBDC has going on. More so that last one, record keeping and getting ready for taxes, right? So they have a webinar coming up from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on December the 6th. You can go to the SBDC website to register for that. It should be free. And this is my colleague Elizabeth's information. This is her presentation that I just kind of ran with today. And that is her information. Like I said, I'm going to email this to everyone, but I would encourage you all to reach out to SBDC, just schedule a consultation with them. It's free, and just kind of talk about your business. They can kind of say, okay, this is really great business, is strong, or have you consider these things to help strengthen your business, no matter what it is. It's definitely worth having a conversation with them. They are phenomenal individuals, and they can definitely help you to get your business to the next level. Well, that's all that I have, and I'm going to turn us over to my colleague, Jeff, who is going to come and talk to us about all things related to SBA. So you want to use your computer, Jeff?
Yes, I can. Maybe we can take a little break.
Yeah, so let's take a 10-minute break, stretch our legs. We'll come back at, so 10 minutes. Let's come back 12:30, right? Is that, so rather get some more food, have a conversation, do a little bit of networking, and then 12:30, Jeff will start and kick us off with the next portion of our session. I feel like Vanna White.
Yeah.
Walk by, touch his screens.
Folks, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Is everybody okay?
Yes.
All right, so by show of hands, is the Polynesian sauce better than the honey roasted barbecue sauce with the Chick-fil-A? Which one goes better with the chicken?
I don't know.
Well, I'm Jeff Powell with the Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. I want to thank Terrell for doing a great job, and also John for doing a great job with the FEMA mitigation. Amy and Amber Keith, always thank you for your support with what you guys do to get these workshops and seminars. We appreciate you so much. So part of the continuity and business preparedness measures one can take is to be well-versed in the SBA disaster loan program. And before I begin, I'd just like to make a differentiation between the Small Business Administration's disaster loan program and the conventional SBA loan program. They're kind of two-facing, right? So the conventional loan program is where a business either wants to buy a building or let's say some heavy equipment or machinery, and they go to a bank and they try to secure an SBA loan, whereas the bank would take that application, process that application, underwrite that application, and if approved, the bank would actually fund that loan. The SBA would act as a co-signer to that loan, reducing the bank's risk exposure and offering a guarantee in the event that the business owner went into a default. So if that happened and the business owner couldn't pay the loan back, the SBA would indemnify the bank anywhere from 50% up to 90% for that loan, right? So that would increase the chance of the loan being paid back to the bank. If a business wanted to just grow their balance sheet, they needed money for working capital, and it's a non-disaster related attempt for the business to gain financing, they go to the same bank, but they get a 7A loan. That loan is not to secure a building or heavy equipment, it would be for working capital. Something a business needs, let's say they want to take on a $100,000 marketing campaign or commercial or radio campaign. So they need that working capital to grow their sales, their balance sheet, whatever they want to do, you can go to the bank and get a 7A SBA loan. Aside from that, we represent the Office of the SBA Disaster Recovery and Resilience in the event there's some type of natural disaster or like COVID, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a natural disaster, it just could be a disaster. The SBA's Office of Disaster Resistance, we come into play. It's activated at that time. So we're representing today the Office of Disaster Assistance, Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience, and this ties in perfectly to today's concept of being prepared in the event of an event, right? So we're going to talk about the actual SBA loan program. I'll give you an overview, and then we'll look at some of the paperwork that you would want to be aware of in the event that something does happen and you need one of these very low interest rate benevolent loans from the SBA. So who we are, I just explained, we're a federal agency and we're dedicated and we exist to helping not only business owners and nonprofits, ladies, but also homeowners and people that rent when there's a natural disaster, right? So you don't necessarily have to own a business in order for us to help you as a homeowner. So there are over 66,000 applications that were made as a result of Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida. Only 17,000 of them were business owners. So the difference would be the Small Business Administration actually took more applications to help homeowners and non-business people than actually businesses. So it's important to know in the event of a disaster, we certainly extend our resources to people that own homes, whether they own a business or not, and people that are renters, even though they may or may not own a business. The objective of today is to illuminate some of the items necessary so as to prepare you guys for, okay, what am I gonna do it and how am I gonna do it in the event of a disaster? So one of the main, avenues to business continuity is to understand the disaster loan program. Referring back to Hurricane Ian, as it hit Southwest Florida, I come to you by way of Long Island, New York. I'm deployed here, and I've been here in Florida ever since October of last year. So we arrived here because of Hurricane Ian, but we're still here because even though the initial response to Hurricane Ian is over, we've got some boots on the ground and we've got some extended resources as an agency because we want to touch as much of Florida as we can to do workshops and seminars like this, to disseminate this critical information to help business owners be prepared for what we hope will not be the next big one. But we do live in Florida, or I live in New York, you guys live in Florida. So we know it's going to be hot and we know there's always a hurricane threat. So your time here today is well spent and I'm happy to be before you. So moving on, the SBA program, you should know as a business owner that it is kind of the gateway to other avenues or resources. In other words, as a homeowner or a renter, if you suffer losses or affected by a natural disaster, you'd go to FEMA, you'd register with FEMA, and they're going to extend you as much help as they can. But part of FEMA's process is to see if you qualify for help from the SBA first. If you can qualify for one of our very low interest rate loans, then the SBA will help you as a homeowner, as a renter. If you unfortunately find that the SBA can't offer you a loan to help you recover, we refer you back to FEMA so FEMA can help you further in the form of grant assistance. However, as a business owner, if you make an application for your business loan with the SBA, that would be the only federal resource available to help you with funding for your business in the event of a disaster. So as a business owner, you can go to FEMA and they will help you, but there's no resources allocated to actually help your business. And the irony is you're getting help, but the way you earn money and provide for yourself and your family, there's no help. So there's kind of a paradox there. So that's why the SBA and FEMA kind of work together in conjunction and collaborate so we can take care of people and we can take care of what feeds people, and that's the small businesses in a certain area. So if in the event that your business eventually makes an application with the SBA and for some reason we're not able to offer a loan to that business, there are other avenues and other agencies that will take a look at you and see what they can do for you since the SBA was not able to offer you a loan. So the SBA we like to see as a gateway to the other loan programs. And let's talk a little bit about the loans. Give you a little overview. The disaster loans, as I mentioned, they're made available when there is a declaration. It could be a presidential declaration, which is a grand scale or broad scale type of natural disaster, such as Hurricane Ian or Nicole, or if there's a local smaller scale type of disaster, the agency itself doesn't need Washington, D.C. to give us allocated or resources. We can just make a declaration and say, wow, that huge condominium had a fire, those homeowners need help, they're business owners that live there, and so the president, and Congress doesn't need to allocate funds for that, but we as an agency will send resources there and do everything we can to help people. So whether it's a presidential or an agency declaration, we like to show up and do what we can. So the disaster loans are made available, and here's the concept, to underinsured or uninsured parties. So let's take the homeowner as an example, right? You have $100,000 worth of damage to your home, but your insurance company is only covering you for $50,000. If you have the money in the bank, good for you, God bless you, and Godspeed to your recovery. If you don't, you can call Jeff Powell, Long Island, New York, and I probably won't have $50,000 to lend you either. Or you can say, all right, I remember I went to that seminar, the SBA is available, I need to get connected with them because they can help me as a homeowner. As a business owner, there's something called business continuation insurance. There's the key person insurance, that's a separate rider. Then there's business continuation insurance, that's a separate rider. Key person insurance, as you eloquently mentioned earlier, and my colleague did a great job of explaining, is if a key person in your organization, maybe a top producer or an executive or a manager, meets a demise and expires and the dearly departed is no longer available to contribute greatly to the organization, that causes an economic impact. You can put in literally a claim for that person's production and get compensated for what you lost in the event of that person's untimely death or illness. Business continuation is a little different. Let's say I'm a pizzeria and my restaurant burns down, and it takes 4 months, 5 months for me to rebuild and get my pizzeria going again. Well, I was smart enough and I had the knowledge to call my commercial lines insurance provider. I do have a business continuation rider, and that rider enables me or entitles me to get compensated from my insurance company what my monthly gross was prior to the actual fire. So even though my business is being rebuilt, I'm still getting money that now I don't have to pay back to a bank or my 401k, because I took a loan from my 401k, or the SBA, because the insurance was enough to cover my rebuild. So in the event that there's a deficit from what a person needs, either for their home or their business, if there's a deficit between what the insurance is going to do for you and what you actually need, we kind of make up that difference in the form of a loan. And sometimes people just don't have insurance. So 100% of what they need to rebuild, we will finance for them as long as they qualify. And there are two types of loans. My friend who has the business, the videography business, you mentioned that you have some pretty expensive equipment. Well, should that equipment get damaged, not just the building, right? Not just this building. Let's say this is your building and you work at this building. If the building got damaged by a natural disaster, our loans cover the money you need to repair your building. But it also covers the money you might need to replace your business equipment. Or if you're a restaurant or a car dealer, it would cover your inventory, if your inventory got damaged. So it's important to note that physical damage to things that I can tangibly see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, over and above just my building, the contents, the equipment, the inventory, those items are covered under our loans also, okay? And then something that's very important, when COVID hit a few years ago, folks, that was a natural disaster like we've never seen before. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. There was no hurricane that damaged our physical structure. There was no tornado that damaged our expensive business equipment. But that virus caused economic damage before measure that you can't imagine, right? It's hard to quantify what COVID actually did for businesses across this country. But we came up with what's called the COVID-19 or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So part of the type of loans we do also, there's a feature that in the event that your building in this natural disaster never got touched, a raindrop didn't hit it, the wind didn't blow it, it's fine. However, it affected all your customers that live in your neighborhood. Imagine you're a gas station, and you suffered no damage to your building, you suffered no damage to your content or your inventory, but all of your surrounding areas, right, all your customers, their houses got damaged, and now they're at local hotels or staying with family because they can't live in their houses. Well, they're not coming to your gas station to buy coffee, they're not buying gas, they're not buying snacks, but you still have payroll, you still have to pay the mortgage on that property, you still have to pay your suppliers, you still have to pay utilities, rent, you have to pay insurance, you've got to pay taxes, but there's no revenue coming in. So an economic injury disaster loan would be something that you would consider, even though you didn't suffer damage physically to your building or inventory or your business contents, our loans do cover the financial impact to your balance sheet, and it could replace working capital. Not profit, folks, but it would replace working capital in the event that a natural disaster caused a huge blockade for you to sell your goods or your services. All right? Is that okay? That was a lot of word salad, but I'm sure everybody, okay, good. So the types of loans, again, we do loan to homeowners. We do loan to renters. We do business and nonprofits, and the economic injury disaster loan that I just outlined, hopefully to your understanding. We want to just make sure we highlight some recent changes in the program. I see you writing, young lady, so this would be a good idea to take down a few notes.
Okay.
For the homeowners, we used to lend a maximum of $200,000. There is now a 2.5 times multiplier to that loan limit. It is now $500,000. And for the contents in a homeowner's home, or to a renter who's putting in an application to replace their personal property, it used to be $40,000, but as of July 31st, it has now been multiplied 2.5 times. We can lend $100,000 for personal property, whether you're a renter or a homeowner. And then the $2 million business loan limit, that has remained unchanged. So it's important to note that if you're a business and you've suffered through a hurricane or a tornado, your business got damaged, the building got damaged, you lost inventory, you lost business equipment, and your business suffered economic injury, there's a $2 million umbrella that covers all of those subsets, okay? So the economic injury, you can get by itself up to $2 million, or the total loan, including physical damage and economic injury together, would have a ceiling of $2 million. Any questions on that? Okay, eligibility for one of these loans is very simple. In order to be eligible to apply, your home or your business has to be in an affected area. So for instance, Hurricane Ian, it hit Southwest Florida. If you were in Miami-Dade County, you would not be able to apply because there was no declaration for any county in Miami-Dade County. Credit history. While we look at the entire credit profile, we just pull one credit bureau. It is a hard pull on one credit bureau, and we do a thorough evaluation on your entire credit history. You do not need perfect credit in order to be eligible for one of our loans. And then we do some measure of determining your ability to repay the loan. We would not want to put a loan onto a person or a business and that loan create a hardship for that business or that person. So we do have a methodology to determine if the loan is going to be a burden or hardship. All right, and there's 3 very easy steps to apply. You're going to go to the website here, which I'll get into a little later, and walk you through the application process very quickly and some of the documents that you're going to need to be familiar with to get through the application. The other thing you can do is apply in person in the event that there's a declaration. The SBA secures locations about the affected area. For instance, I spent 6 months, I ran a business recovery center in Bonita Springs, and I had as many as 12 agents there, and we set up with printers and scanners and all the technical equipment, and we take in applications and help affected survivors all day. So there are a number of disaster recovery centers around the area that was affected. In a disaster recovery center, you'd find FEMA, Red Cross, a number of first responders and agencies that want to assist. But the SBA, separate and apart from that, we set up business recovery centers where if you came in with help with your business, not only we can provide you with guidance and consultation and getting your business application submitted, we're happy to do the same if your home was affected, or if you're a renter and you lost personal property. We do the same, and we can help you as an individual person who's been affected, and also as a business owner who's been affected. And then the third way that you could make an application is by mail. Just old-fashioned ink and paper, lick the envelope and mail it into us, and we'll look at that in a little while too. But in the interest of time, I'm just gonna move forward. Is that okay, folks? Step number 2, once you make the application, there's gonna be a loss verifier, the equivalent of an insurance adjuster, if you can wrap your arms or your mind around that. And that loss verifier's job is to connect with you, have a robust discussion about all the things you may have lost and the damage that was done, and then he or she would likely make an appointment to come to your home or place of business to do a visual inspection so they can determine the amount of your loss. And then once that's done, your loan gets funded and closed. Now, why would you want to take a loan, right? Most people don't want a loan in any circumstance, but some of the reasons that we like to highlight that a loan is a good idea is because it's a benevolent loan, right? It's not a profit center for the government. Even though we're lending money, we're not looking to really make money. As of today, there have been no fees, no application fee, no processing fee, no underwriting fee. There's no prepayment penalty. There are no late fees, even if you send your payment in a few days or a week or so late. The terms are very generous with extremely low interest rates. I believe the interest rates for businesses for Hurricane Ian was 3% and 6%. And then one very good feature that I like to highlight is that in our loans, once you close it and get funded, you don't even have to make a payment for a whole year. You get a full year deferment before your first payment is due. And the interest that would normally accrue in that first year period, it's actually forgiven now. So you don't have to pay any interest or make a payment for 12 months as you begin to recover. And the reason why that's substantial is because in that year, if you do have insurance, it's likely that your insurance claim can come due, and then you can use the insurance money to pay off your SBA loan, and we can act as like a buffer or somewhat of a bridge between the time you need the money initially and when your insurance comes due. So we make a quick announcement here. We're actually changing our platform. It's going from the Disaster Loan Assistance platform to something called the My SBA, which is a unified lending platform. The website for both are here on this screen, and we're happy to send you this PowerPoint to your email so you can have all this information after today. But the reason why this is important is because aesthetically, some of what you see today is going to look a little different in the coming weeks ahead until we fully incorporate the new platform. Okay, so the information is the same, but aesthetically it might look a little different. But once you go into the actual My SBA loan portal website, in order to put your application in, you are going to see this screen, and as the red arrow is indicating, you're going to hit the tile that reads Determine Eligibility. Once you get to the next screen, you're going to have to kind of dial down what we're trying to be eligible for. So we need to know, by way of your selection here, what state and what county your affected area is in, to see what type of fact sheet we have to pull up, okay? And so the fact sheet is going to give us all the information about the actual disaster, so you know what you're getting involved in terms of one of our loans. Once you select the state and the county, we need to determine what the platform is going to load for you. Is it going to load a business application, or is it going to load a home application? So once you select that, the next screen is going to show you a list of all the open declarations in the area. We just want to make sure we select the correct declaration. For instance, Hurricane Ian was immediately followed by Hurricane Nicole. So even though you selected Florida on the previous screen, there were multiple declarations open at the same time. So we want to make sure that you select the declaration that affected you, because there were more than one open at the same time. And once you select the correct declaration, it generates a fact sheet for that declaration. And the fact sheet is going to tell us everything about this declaration. What counties are affected, what contiguous counties are eligible, the interest rates assigned. It's going to tell you the deadline to apply, anything you need to know about this declaration as it relates to you as a potential applicant. And this is a copy of the fact sheet itself, front and back. Once the PowerPoint gets sent to you, please take some time to peruse it. I described what it was on the previous screen, but now we have a picture of it, so you can kind of see all the details in their intricacies and how it applies to each declaration. Moving right along, after the fact sheet, it's going to just have you register, right? You're going to register a login, a username, and a password, so then you can get to the actual business application. Once you register and create a login, the business application is what you would select, as the red arrow is indicating. If you're a homeowner, feel free to select homeowners, but in the event of, or in the spirit of today's event, let's look at the business application. The very first page of the business application is very important. And what this is going to do is allow us an opportunity to select if we're a corporation, an LLC, a partnership, etc. This is important because the information that you put in here populates another very important form that we send to the IRS to request tax transcripts. It's also important to note that if you're a sole proprietor, when you select sole proprietor here, it takes you to another business application, which is a little more user-friendly and less intense than the business application. So once you select what you are, because please be reminded that the applicant is the business, not the person. So we're going to say the applicant is a corporation, a partnership, an LLC, etc. And then on the bottom part of that, it's going to ask you, what is it that you're looking to be compensated for? Or what are you looking to have a claim for? What are you looking for this loan to be used for? Real estate that was damaged, contents, inventory, business equipment, or economic injury. This is where you would select that information. And moving right along, this is going to just have you reconfirm again the state and the county. And then once you get to the next screen, it's going to ask you to confirm one more time the actual declaration. After you select the declaration, you're going to check this box saying, I certify that all the information I'm going to enter is true and correct. The next screen is saying that I give authorization to the SBA to work with my insurance company and pull my credit. And it's also going to let you know that the information that you put into this electronic platform, you actually have a right to it at a later date if you need it through the FOIA Act, which is the Freedom of Information Act, and you need to check that box saying that you understand that. Once we move forward here, this is very easy and self-explanatory. The business application is only 2 pages, but I do want to call your attention to this page, folks. If I could just have your attention here. Remember, question number 3, this is one of these granular nuances that make it's easy for a person, if they don't understand, to make an error. And an error is going to cause a delay. And what we don't want is a delay, because a hurricane just hit my business and I need working capital. I need help, right? So to avoid the delay, we want to make sure that line 3, where it's asking for the applicant's legal name, that you put your business legal name there. And if your business's legal name is your name, that's okay. But if it's Jeff Powell's Hot Dog Stand Incorporated or Jeff Powell LLC, this is where or Terrell, right? I'm Handsome Guy LLC. This is what he's going to put, his business legal name, right? If he has a DBA or a trade name, I'm Handsome Guy Incorporated, but I go by Hot Guy, Hot Guy on the weekends, right? I mean, just take a look at it. Hot Guy on the weekends goes here, DBA. Okay, folks? So the applicant is the business, not the person. So we want to make sure the applicant's legal name is the business's legal name. And commensurate with that, it's asking for a federal tax ID number, not a social security number. So we don't want to put the business's legal name and then a social security, because that doesn't pay, right? It's going to be a business's legal name and then the EIN if you're a partnership or corporation, either a subchapter S or a C Corp. The other thing I can tell you here, which makes a lot of sense, to point out to you, if there are more than 1 locations that your business has had damage to it. I remember there was one business that I dealt with where she was a party planner, and she had so much equipment, props and balloons and furniture and all this stuff she used to set up her events. She had some of it in a storage unit on one side of town and another stored in a storage unit on the other side of town. So both areas were affected, and she suffered damage in her inventory in both areas. So add another damaged property, right? So the damaged property goes here, but if there's more than 1, here you go. Just click that tab and you can add as many locations as you can. For someone that owns real estate, I own 2 or 3 properties around town. They all got affected or damaged by the hurricane, that's where I'm gonna add those other properties. Page 2, something I wanna point out here, folks, if you can follow me, this is where the individual owner's information goes, page 2. All right, so this is where we're gonna put Jeff Powell, not Jeff Powell's hot dog stand, and then my social security number is gonna go here, and very important, I'm gonna click this down arrow, and I'm going to put my title, President, CEO, or Vice President, or whatever I am. Anybody that owns 20% or more of the business needs to go on this application. And what we do here is we click this box, add another individual owner, so I can put my partner's information in. Make sense? All right. So what if my business is owned by another business? What if my business is a subsidiary of another business? Then there's a business entity that owns my business, not an individual. So we're gonna need that business's legal name of my parent company. We're gonna need that business's EIN number. And then we're gonna need to capture how much of my business does that other business own. And if there's more than one business that has conglomerated together and they own my business, I need to add each business that owns part of my business here. Does that make sense? Okay. Just a few things I want to point out that's very important that business owners tend to miss. Okay. A series of questions, folks. Has any of the owners filed bankruptcy? Have any of the owners ever defaulted on a federally insured loan in the past? You know, just normal. Is there any current adjudication going on? Anything like that? Most times the answers are no, but if there is a yes answer, then a sub box opens up and you just got to type in a little description of the circumstances there. This page here is important. There's a small box, which is actually line 22, and some businesses find this helpful because they use this context to explain to the loan officer maybe some unique or special circumstances that they want the loan officer to know. For instance, let's say last year I was a sole proprietor, and 3 or 6 months before the hurricane hit, I became a corporation. So when the taxes are, the tax transcripts are requested by the SBA, the IRS doesn't yet have federal tax returns for your new business. But you've been in business for a while, but your new corporation is new, the business isn't. So this is an area where you just want to type, okay, I've been in business as a sole proprietor, filing 1040s with a Schedule C for the last 5 or 6 years, and I recently initiated a corporation with a new federal tax ID number. So don't look for corporate tax returns, they don't yet exist. So that's important to note that there is a section to communicate to the loan officer or the underwriter who's going to look at your file and make a determination. Anything that you might want to share with him or her. All right, so that form that I talked about, the 4506C form, this is just a copy of it. This form has caused more problems in the lives of business owners when they're trying to get a federal loan from the SBA for help because of a disaster. And the real reason is a few things get missed, and I'll just point them out. Folks, call your attention right here to this little box that you otherwise wouldn't notice unless I point it out. It's called the signatory box. You have to check that box. If it's not checked, the IRS won't release your information. The other thing, line 4, previous address. If you moved since the last time you filed your tax returns, you have to put your previous address there because that's the address that the IRS recognizes for you or your business. So current address, you want to put where you currently receive your mail, but there's a small little line 4 that has you put your previous address in. If this form is submitted to the IRS and the address that you used when you filed your taxes is not on this form on line 3 or 4, it will be rejected. And it will be the headache, root canal, trying to figure out why the IRS rejected that and did not send us your transcripts. And just so you know, a loan officer doesn't see your application until the 4506C goes to the IRS and the transcripts come back. Sometimes it takes 3 hours, sometimes it takes 3 days. And that's when this form is correct. If there's an issue with it, then it's almost like starting over. So we don't want to lose your place in line because we have an IRS issue. So please make sure that the signatory box is checked. Please make sure that the address is on this form, and it's the same one that you used when you filed your taxes last. And then the only other thing I want to bring to your attention is there's a section where you're going to write in what type of taxes you file. On that 4506C form, make sure you indicate if you're a partnership and you file a 1065. If you're a corporation, then you file an 1120. If you're a subchapter S, then it's 1120S. If it's a sole proprietor, then it would be a 1040. The paper application, folks, if in the event that for some reason you can't make it to one of our recovery centers, or you yourself do not have capacity to submit an electronic application, you can call our customer service number and we'll mail you a paper application, right? And you just fill out that application by hand the old-fashioned way. This is just what it looks like. It's actually the paper version of what we just went through, which was the electronic version. Same questions, it's just a paper version. And as you can see, the application is only 2.5 pages. So it's not cumbersome and it's not arduous. So the first page of the business application just collects basic information about the business and the owner, as we discussed before. And the second page talks about the damaged property, your insurance information, and it talks about the questions that you have to answer, either yes or no. One of the more important trailing documents or filing requirements for the business application is a personal financial statement. So I'd like to show it so you see what it looks like. The personal financial statement is nothing more than a net worth statement. On the left-hand side of this form, it's going to ask for a summary total of all your assets. What do you have in the bank? What do you have in your Roth IRA? What's the value of your house? What do you have at your Merrill Lynch trading account? Just a snapshot, summary total. The right side of the page asks the same of your liabilities, right? The mortgage on on your house, the balance on your car loan, your credit cards, etc. Even though this is a business application, this form is asking for your personal financial information. This form is required for everybody that owns 20% or more of the business, right? So it's a net worth statement. This statement walks you through your assets on the left, liabilities on the right, and down toward the bottom, the equation results in what is your net worth, either positive or negative. The second page of this form is an itemization of everything that you put in on the first page. So instead of just saying what's the balance of all your stock accounts, it wants you to list each stock account individually. Instead of saying I own $1 million in real estate, it wants you to list the 4 houses you own worth $250 each and the addresses. And if you have a mortgage on each, then you're going to list all 4 mortgages. So instead of just a summary total of everything as requested on the first page, the second page is asking for itemization. And that's it. Then you'd sign the third page. So the personal financial statement is not difficult or arduous at all. We just want summary totals on the first page, itemizations on the second page. And then that brings us to another very important document called the Schedule of Liabilities. And while the personal financial statement asks for a personal financial picture of the business owner or owners, remember those that own 20% or more, the Schedule of Liabilities, folks, is only asking for liabilities for the business. It's noteworthy to point out that this form is not asking for expenses. Expenses and liabilities are very different. An expense is something that you can pay with cash, or something you pay recurring monthly that you didn't finance. It's not to secure something that hits your balance sheet as a long-term asset or something that you depreciate. So for instance, if you have a business and you have cell phones for your employees, that cell phone would be an expense. That's an operational cost. A liability is a long-term commitment that you have to pay over time because of a contract. Something that would be on your credit report. Sometimes restaurants get their inventory delivered today, but then the wholesale food company gives them 30, 60, 90 days to pay for it. That would be a liability. So the schedule of liabilities is only asking for liabilities for the business, where the personal financial statement is not asking for any liabilities for the business. There's a differentiation. If you don't have any liabilities, you just want to write, I have no liabilities, and sign that form. And one additional very important filing requirement or SBA form that may be required is what we call the 1368 form. And this is the equivalent of a year-to-date profit and loss. So the first page of it is going to give us a month-over-month look back over the last 3 years of what your gross revenues were, either real or estimated. So that left column, we're going to look at that vertically. We're going to list January to December, and then across the top column, we're going to list the years. Right? So we got the months top to bottom on the left, the years going across from left to right, and for each month in the corresponding year, you want to enter what your gross monthly revenues were, either real or estimated. Either one is acceptable. And what that does is that gives the loan officer a financial look back on what your revenues were for your business for as long as you've been in business. If you're in business only 18 months, then you can only go back 18 months. But we want to fill that out and make sure that is as accurate as you can make it. The second page to this form is important, and really this is where the butter meets the biscuit or the rubber meets the road. Take your choice. Post-hurricane, a loan officer needs to have an idea of how this hurricane, tornado, or natural disaster has affected what is your prognostication or your look forward for, let's say, a year. So on this form, you're going to say, all right, Hurricane Ian hit September of last year. I know it's going to injure me economically, at least for the next year. So we're going to put right at the top from September 2022 to September 2023. Right here, from September 2022 to September 2023, that I think I'm going to earn X in net sales. I'm going to subtract what I estimate on my cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is exactly that. So over the next year, in your estimation of what you're going to sell, what did that inventory cost you? Not all of the inventory you bought, but only the inventory that you think you're going to sell. So if I'm a car dealer and I buy $100,000 worth of cars from my lot on November 1st, and then on the 15th, and I spent $100,000 for all those cars. On November 15th, I sold half. Then my cost of goods sold as of November 15th would be $50,000. I spent $100,000 for all of it, but I only sold half. So when someone says, Jeff, what's your cost of goods sold on the 15th? I'm going to say, well, I sold half my cars, so my cost of goods sold was half of everything that I spent for my inventory. So this form is asking for cost of goods sold. Not everything that you bought to sell, but only what did it cost you to buy the merchandise that you sold. So we've got to estimate what that's going to be for the year. Once we take what our estimated sales are going to be, and we subtract our estimated cost of goods sold, we're going to come to a number called gross profit. Right? So top line less cost is our profit. From the profit, I still have to pay all my bills. Advertising, rent, utilities, interest, taxes, etc. So I'm going to do 1 year estimation of what all those expenses are and liabilities, and I'm going to take my gross profit, I'm going to subtract my expenses, and that, folks, is how you're going to help the SBA estimate how much money you need. Sometimes that number is actually a negative because you don't think you're going to make any money. My whole business is wiped off the map. I got to start from scratch. And conventional thinking and experience tells us you don't want to submit a financially weak-looking application if you're trying to get a loan. But an SBA disaster loan, we're not doing risk-based lending like a conventional bank, right? We understand that a hurricane just hit, severely impacted your ability to make money, and that's why the program exists. So don't have trepidation or don't be shy if your number doesn't look as strong as it does, your outlook, your forecast. Looks like I'm in financial trouble. Right, we know that. That's why we're here. So just give us an honest and best guesstimation of what your balance sheet's gonna look like going forward for a year. And if it's not that pretty, that's okay. That gives the loan officer a real insight on how much you need this loan. Did you have a question, Jerry?
Yes, I'm just trying to wrap around in my head, when you're talking about the goods, selling goods and things like that, in my case, being a nonprofit, how can I interpret that?
Great question. And as a nonprofit, do you sell anything?
No,
Then you would not have a cost of goods sold.
okay,
If I'm a barber, right, I provide a service, I cut hair. I didn't have to buy something to sell to my customer
okay.
to make that gross profit.
So it can't be zero or?
In many cases it is, and
Okay.
thank you for bringing that up.
All right.
A realtor, right, I'm selling a service. I'm bringing together the meeting of the minds, a buyer and a seller, and I'm getting compensated for that arrangement. I didn't buy something to sell it unless I bought a house and now I'm doing a rehab project, and when it's done, I go to sell it.
Right,
If I bought the house for $500,000 and I sell it for $1 million, my cost of goods sold is gonna be $500,000,
right.
right? Plus the expenses to get that done, right? Like the equipment and labor and all that good stuff.
Oh.
That's right. Great question, and thank you. So to the nonprofit, we do help nonprofits. And I think, just for your edification, the interest rate for the nonprofit for Hurricane Ian, 2%. Not bad, right?
No,
2%, no fees. Again, it's not a profit center, the government's not trying to make money, but these funds come directly from the treasury. So we're lending the taxpayers money, and the interest rate just covers the cost of operating the SBA.
okay,
Yeah, that's it.
understood.
Thank you for the question. So the paper application, in the event that you can't submit it electronically, the way that paper application can be completed and submitted is before you on the screen. You can email it to disastercustomerservice@sba.gov after you scan it in, or stick it in a brown envelope, put a stamp on it, and the fine folks at the Processing and Disbursement Center will welcome that application and make sure it gets to a loan officer forthwith. Their mailing address is before you on the screen. And then be reminded, I will send this presentation so you have it. All right? So I hope I've articulated our program and the application and the trailing documents to your satisfaction. Happy to take any questions, if there are any.
So, you say it could do for home also.
Yeah.
During the Ian hurricane, kind of got caught between a rock and a hard place. My insurance company started paying me for things. They had things left over, and I had someone trying to recoup those things they didn't pay for. They went out of business, and they shut down.
That's terrible.
Then I had a hard time trying to find another insurance company.
Mhm.
Then insurance company wouldn't insure me
Yeah.
unless everything was closed with
Close
the other.
claim.
So I still had something open, so they forced me to say, okay, I give up, close it so I can get insurance, because my mortgage company was threatening me with twice the amount.
Forced placement.
Yeah, for insurance. So now I say I have to paint my own house and finish those things. Nobody's gonna do it. I have to finish that stuff. Is that something that, when you talk about, personal, if I needed assistance in a loan that way?
Yeah, so the answer is absolutely. So while your insurance company is busy going out of business and insurance company B doesn't want to insure you, it sounds like a legal matter. So I don't want to pretend I'm an attorney because I'm not. But aside from that issue, where it sounds like it requires some kind of litigation, the SBA loan program is available, like I said, to homeowners and even the people that rent. If you have a business, you can get a separate loan for your home. If you don't have a business, you can get a separate loan for your home. That in that instance, you make an application, right? Either at one of our disaster recovery centers or online, yourself. Once that application is submitted, a loss verifier is gonna call you. Say, hi, my name is Donald Duck, I'm the loss verifier with the SBA, I see your loan application's here, I've been assigned to do an inspection. Tell me about everything you lost. So you're gonna tell that person your narrative from start to finish and what your issues are. He or she is definitely gonna make an appointment to come see and literally do a physical inspection. And as my colleague Terrell pointed out, how important it is to take pictures and keep a little bit of an itemization. In your case, sir, if you keep your very expensive equipment in your home, you definitely want to take him up on this suggestion. Take photographs, keep photo records, and that should be easy for you because you have all this fancy equipment. And keep a list of all your equipment, what it costs. That loss verifier is going to determine, by way of physical inspection, the extent of your damage to your house, to your sofa, your wife's expensive Louis Vuittons, and your golf clubs, and your electronics, and your appliances, anything that got damaged. That loss verifier is going to run that as a total. They're going to take that amount and send it to the loan officer, and the loan officer is going to determine your ability to repay that amount. So the answer to your question is yes, and that's the process. Apply, let the loss verifier connect with you, have a discussion, do a physical inspection, and find out how much money you need to put you back right where you were the day before the hurricane.
Because I had a public adjuster on it, I had to tell them to let it go, so they got that documentation. But one lesson I've learned in life is it doesn't always pay to prove you're right with a lawyer.
That's true.
John had
That's
something
very
you wanted to
true.
say too.
And so, I'm sorry?
John had something you wanted to chime in on.
Sure, John, go ahead, please.
No, I said this might be a good time if you could mention how the government used duplication of benefits.
Yeah, so in your case, there wasn't any insurance to be processed, right? But in the event that there was, I had mentioned before that these loans are unique in the way that it could really benefit you in terms of timing. So we can process and turn one of these loans around ideally in 3 or 4 weeks, you get funded. But it takes 3 months, maybe 6 months, or even 9 months for an insurance company to actually get you money.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me I gotta sit here for 9 months and I can't fix my house, and every time it rains, and half of it's in the Gulf of Mexico on the way to China? I mean, what are we doing here? So you get funded with an SBA loan. The loss verifier comes and he says that, okay, you need $200,000, right, to fix your home and replace your personal property. So you get to $200,000, you get to recovering, you start buying all your personal property, the contractor's around the third base, you're almost done. And here comes the insurance company with their $100,000 settlement. That's all they're gonna do for you, right? So you got $200,000 from the SBA, so you're well on your way to recover. The insurance company finally comes through with their end of the deal, right, with $100,000. How do these two numbers intersect? And so thank you, John. The idea is to understand at the end of the transaction, you wouldn't have $300,000. One of the provisions of the loan is so that $100,000 that the insurance company is offering, it actually goes to pay down the $200,000 loan with the SBA. And that's great, right? Because now your loan balance just got cut in half, and it shouldn't take you 10 or 20 years to pay that off. It'll take you much less. And so the insurance company didn't do all of what you needed to recover, but they came through with a portion, and that portion goes to pay down your loan. What if the insurance company comes through first? $200,000 is what you need to recover. The insurance company sends you a check for $100,000, but you're $100,000 short. So the loss verifier comes to your house and does the inspection, and he or she determines, yeah, you need $200,000. Well, I got $100,000 already from the insurance company. We will write you a loan again for the difference. You see what I mean? So the loan amount, if you notice on the application, there's no place to enter, oh, I want $100,000, I need $200,000. The application doesn't even ask you that.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, the question's not even there.
Yeah.
Your loan amount is gonna be determined, and it's gonna be equal to your loss. It's gonna be determined by one of our loss verifiers.
Okay.
So you don't even have to get someone to come in and give you estimates. Yeah, we'll take care of all that. And there's no fees or charges or bills for that loss verifier.
And I kind of have it like an iffy situation too, because I have a nonprofit, but it's pretty much home-based. So I did have some damages done in my home.
Yeah.
I did file a claim through my insurance company, but it's going through that process. They also filed bankruptcy, went out of business, but I did get picked up by another insurance company,
Here's for you.
homeowner insurance company. So how would I equate that when I try to apply for a business loan?
2 applications.
2
Do
applications?
one for the damage to your house, and then you're gonna do one, who owns the house, the business or you? So that's gonna be one separate application as a homeowner.
Okay.
But then your nonprofit needs an application also, because some of your contents and inventory and your business equipment certainly got damaged. And you would be able to be compensated in the form of a loan to replace some of those things that you lost.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I was trying to emphasize, if you own a business or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll still help you as a homeowner, as a renter.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, my colleagues are here, they've got years of experience, and it would be doing them injustice if I didn't allow Amy, Emerke, Terrell, anything that I missed that you'd like to add, please feel free to share with them.
I feel you were very thorough.
Great job.
Yes.
I think that we're good.
All right, well, with that, thank you for your time and attention. It's been my pleasure to be before you today, and Godspeed to your recovery if you were affected by the recent hurricanes. Thank you again.
All right. And that concludes our session for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you.